with the legend, Hillbilly Jim. Not only a colleague of ours, of course, Outlaw Country and the Moonshine Matinee show on the weekends. We'll let you plug away in a second, but first we got to talk about the reason we're here. Legends House. It's finally going to debut on the WWE Network. We just got a private screening right here with you guys, with the whole cast. Really an amazing first episode. Talk about the experience of being on the show and being with 7 other dudes from your era and just talking shop and living together, bunking with guys. It's crazy.
Even though it's a while ago that we filmed this, it seems like it was just yesterday. And that's the amazing thing about this group of guys and about my business. You might not visit with the guys every week or every month or every year, but as soon as you see them, it's just like it was yesterday. And so that's the same thing I noticed when we were watching this first episode. It seemed like it was yesterday we were doing that. And it was an absolute wonderful time. It was like, to me, guys, it was a working vacation.
The thing that I noticed right off the bat, you walk into the house, there's Tony Atlas, and you guys hadn't seen each other in a long time, and there was genuine emotion there. You guys were happy to see each other. It had to be almost like a rekindling of old times when you see all these guys.
That's exactly like it is because, we have this common denominator that runs us through us. It's called pro wrestling. And we have done this for so many years, and we have all these stories that we individually and collectively have done from traveling all over the world and the road. And you know what? These guys here, we all laugh and we pick up from the last time we saw each other. And I hope that this conveys over to Legends House so that the fans can see this. And you and I have talked before.
Sure.
As you know, the fans like to see a different side of what's going on with you. And this here shows us in our entirety. There is some great stuff. There's some raw stuff on this. There is some emotional stuff on this. It's a whole roller coaster of stuff.
Jim, I mean, we saw it towards the end of the episode where you guys are, having some drinks and sitting back and enjoying some libations, and there's Piper, and he's not comfortable with the situation because he doesn't drink anymore, and that was some pretty hard stuff right there.
At first, Roddy had a very difficult time there because he's got a lot of issues and stuff. And I used to tell him, I broke him up the first couple of days. I said, "You got more issues than Time Magazine or Newsweek." He has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on with him, and Roddy's just. I never got to spend a whole lot of time with Tony Atlas or Roddy Piper or Mean Gene, but I know him real well. And all these guys throughout this show, I believe you'll see that I was the most even kill through it all because there wasn't no stretch for me. I just did me.
Sure.
But some of these guys have issues and they don't like being around other guys. They like, especially Piper.
Sure.
And you see this in this show here, and it's raw, but it's entertaining. Don't you agree?
Not only entertaining, it's also the people that we grew up watching and loving. And there's a part in the first episode where you got Gary Busey doing this Mensa meeting. I don't even know why Gary Busey was on the show, but there's Gary Busey on the show. And you guys are doing meditation and whatnot, and then you sit down for a meal. And they talk about, Busey says to a bunch of former professional wrestlers, and I love him saying this because it makes me want to reach across the table and slap him, that, well, you know what, you gotta disconnect from the character, right? And Piper was incredible in saying, well, you can disconnect from the character. Do people remember you from, your old movies?
Yeah.
No. They say, hey, Mr. Busey, how are you? No. People want Hot Rod. People want Hillbilly Jim. People want Duggan over here saying ho all the time. You can't just disconnect from your character.
A wonderful point that Roddy made because it wouldn't matter whatever I did. If I came back and had another lifetime or I had another 40 years, I would never surpass probably the Hillbilly Jim character. And you know what? Nor do I try to. I embrace it. It's not like doing a movie or a theatrical production where you play that role or that character for a while and then you move on. Our stuff is 24/7. Hey, there's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. What a legend. Look at that hair. Beautiful hair. He's got to get it back to the shop by the Friday. Get it back by 5 o'clock. There's a lot of, And basically we just clowned throughout the whole thing and enjoyed ourselves. But this is the side that people need to realize, and Piper brought up a very interesting point, as we said a while ago, about that to Busey, because Gary Busey's never lived like that. These guys here are a different kind of guys, and it's a different kind of world than any other athlete or any other entertainer. Professional wrestlers are more like gypsies, and they have a different mindset. A lot of us, whether we want to be or not, I'm pretty social, but I'm kind of a loner. I like my own time to myself, and I don't get upset when I have to spend time by myself. because I'm comfortable with me. But that was hard for Roddy at first, and a couple of guys felt like they were closed in, Anyway, listen, let me tell you something. It's not no easy stretch to go and hang out with a bunch of guys that you haven't been around with for 27, 28 days. It's pretty tough. But you know what? That's what he would call it. And at the end of this thing, here's the good news.
Yeah.
At the end of this thing, we didn't want it to end.
We
were having so much fun. Some of the guys were actually as emotional as they could get. They're not like regular, like weeping and crying little guys.
Sure.
But we hated for our time to end. And even today, a lot of us still call each other on the phone more, which that's the win.
That's cool.
That's the win-win for me.
Yeah, I mean, this was shot almost 2 years ago.
Almost 2 years ago.
So that's pretty unbelievable, the time period from when it was done to now. And when you go back and you recall working with these guys and being in this environment, who did you learn most from? Is there a person that you really got into and you were like, boy, this is a smart person? I really took a lot away from being with this guy for 30 days.
Super question. And I'll have to tell you, with each man that was in that house with me, I saw a different texture to him than I'd ever seen before. And I learned things about them because, as I said, I never spent any quality time with them. I learned about things in their lives that pretty much make them the way they are and why they are the way they are. I learned about some of the misfortunes, some of the hurts, some things I never even knew of. And I'm sure maybe with me, I felt like, I'm always just happy all the time. And I try to be, because my saying is, I ain't here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. I try to enjoy every day. But some of these guys have actually been through some pretty trying, dramatic stuff, and all of them. Piper, you'll see it in the show.
Sure.
And there's an episode in the show. I'll just tell you about this later on in the show, where we have a kind of a Last Supper, and a lot of guys really get into some stuff that's pretty personal stuff. And you'll see more about what I'm saying. I don't want to jump the ball on this because I couldn't do it justice. But those are the things that I'm going to take away from this. Listen, that's all comes down to it. We're fortunate. We're blessed. We're so happy to have been part of this. And, it segues us to everything else in our life. Just like you and me being here, being a part of SiriusXM Radio, it just segues.
And speaking of segues, and speaking of having a good time, I know Outlaw Country on the weekends,
yes.
The Moonshine Matinee. Tell me about the show. I know we've talked about this on Busted Open before, but, really, what's the essence of your show on SiriusXM? What are the fans, what are they in store for when they listen to Hillbilly Jim show?
Of course, being Hillbilly Jim, I'd have to do an Outlaw Country show. I couldn't do a rock and roll 60s show. I couldn't be Cousin Brucey Hillbilly Jim. I couldn't do that. Or I couldn't have a Zen show just about home meditation. So I have Outlaw Country, and this is my consensus. This is an Outlaw Country America. This is North America. We like a lot of different things. And Outlaw Country pretty much covers with a big umbrella all sorts of music. I mean, not only would it be old kickers like David Allan Cole and Merle Haggard and all the greats, but we'll go into Southern rock. We'll go into Motley Crue. We'll go into some blues stuff, whatever it takes, and we jump around along. And you know what? If I make it to the 1st of July, it'll be 9 years since I've done this journey. And I got to say this to all
Legacy XM right there.
Yeah,
right?
I got to tell you, all my SiriusXM
I'm Legacy
fans,
Sirius.
Yes. I am so happy with all of my fans out there and the ones that have supported me. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank everybody at SiriusXM in New York for giving me the wonderful opportunity. My brother, Jeremy Tepper, programs for me over at the headquarters in New York City. And everybody along the way, the late, great Steve Popovich Sr., who's the guy that really rung my bell. My boss is little Steven Van Zandt of Bruce's band. He runs the channel. And I've been just blessed to be a part of this and to be a part of it. I love the whole SiriusXM radio situation where you can get in your car, friends, and you can leave Manhattan, New York, and you can drive to Manhattan, California if you want to, leave it on the same channel. I mean, it's just amazing with very little, if any, commercial interruption. But you know what? I would have never got there had it not been for this journey. For me to be a part of the WWE and all those years of wrestling, that's why Hillbilly Jim got the call. And it just seems like everything is just like a stepping stone with everything else. And then we get the Legends House. I mean, I don't know anybody else in my little town in Kentucky that's on a national reality show, so I'm blessed.
That's pretty amazing. I'll tell you from my standpoint is that we get to hunker down with country music, outlaw style with Hillbilly Jim, where you can listen to pro wrestling, just straight pro wrestling talk. Or you can
love
listen,
doing your show.
And I appreciate that.
And anytime I've got anything new to talk about, I'm going to try to hit you guys.
Please.
And I'm sure your fans are just absolutely into this too, because, the new WWE Network segues in with you too, because you guys promote all this. It's all about the world of wrestling fans. And I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for wrestling fans. They are the most devoted fans on earth. And you know what? I hope this thing continues and we can keep providing with different wrinkles. The new network is going to be wonderful because
It's
people, they tell me,
incredible,
are
Jim.
enjoying the older matches. That not only are they getting the new guys, but sometimes people have their children or their grandchildren. They say, you ever heard of like Hacksaw Jim Duggan? Remember Hillbilly Jim? You remember?
Well, let me pop it
WrestleMania
right
one?
on for you right here.
Or let me show you a Bruno Sammartino match and Superstar Billy Graham match.
Sure.
Let's go back to a Gorilla Monsoon match. And you know what? You guys cover that weekly with your show.
Absolutely.
You're always beating it because you guys know your stuff. I mean, you guys have been purists in the wrestling business. And the East Coast, of course, is just wonderful. It's inundated with great wrestling fans. That's
Sure
why I
is.
love coming over. I love coming out and
Some of
doing
the
Jersey.
wackiest
I
wrestling
love
fans
going
right up here in the
Nassau
Northeast.
Coliseum,
Yeah.
the Gardens, any of the Gardens, going to Philly. I mean, it's just is what it is. And you know what? Hopefully, this will make all the wrestling fans a little bit happier with this new reality show. And doggone, I get to come back to Manhattan and hang out with you guys.
You got to do it. At WWE Legends House, a legend himself, the great Hillbilly Jim, obviously colleague here at SiriusXM.
Yes, I am.
Jim, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Brother, thanks a lot. We'll see you down the road. Remember, I ain't here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. And I've got
Yeah.
another great saying for me and him. Ain't nothing too good for us.
Ha ha!